So, Laura Winning, I saw your video because Atheist Gamer 100 replied to it, and therefore I figured I would make a reply video to your video so that my fans can see you, and then we can gym profit while we gym profit. So, essentially, I'm trying to combine our fan base into one, because I cordially invite you to the Allies of Darkness. You can see in my previous videos all about that, but what I want to talk about here is DBZ Abridged, Part 3 of Episode 30. And, while you briefly, talked about it, I want to go into more depth about how it was lagging. It was well below what I expected from them. I mean, they usually do a damn good job, and I will say so, but this felt forced. And maybe it was forced, considering that they hadn't planned on making 3 segments. They just had to, based off of how many minutes they can do per video in under YouTube guidelines and things like that. It's not surprising that they had to do it this way, and their website has just been fucking up so severely that it's not reliable to go there. You know they obviously are desperate when they're using YouTube, because most websites prefer that you view it on their website, not YouTube. In fact, Angry Video Game Nerd and all these other people get butt mad every time a video of theirs is uploaded to YouTube immediately after, or even a few days after it's been on their initial website, because they get revenue based off seeing it on their website. Even if they're a partner, they probably get more money when it's direct, just like anything else. It's purer. So that's why usually they prefer you go to their own site. But seeing as Team 4-Star obviously isn't doing this for money, because that might border on copyright infringement, and the fact that their website is just a piece of shit, they're using YouTube primarily to get the new episodes out there. And because of that, it has suffered tremendously because of the 15-minute guidelines, etc. So essentially, I'm not surprised that it sucked, but it did suck. And even under 15 minutes, I know they could have done better. It's just, this is well below their grade. And I'm not saying that Team 4-Star has lost their touch. I'm not saying that, there's never going to be another good episode. I'm just criticizing this specific part, and I will tell you why. And the reason is, I think it was just too, all of a sudden, everybody is been Flanderized. Like, Vegeta. Vegeta went from this smart-ass, coy, mastermind, to all of a sudden, he's just aloof, and he's gonna go out into space to train. That's it. All of a sudden, he went from evil alignment to neutral. No explanation, no punchline. He just chilled the fuck out. What happened between then and now? Did it have something to do with his death? It's never explained. That's the sort of thing you gotta think about. As much as these guys are perfectionists and we have to wait a fucking month to see a new episode, you would think they'd put that kind of thought into it about how you're going to explain this dramatic character change. And they don't. I understand that they're spending that month working hard to make sure that the episode is funny, and that it's entertaining, and that it's well edited so it doesn't look all clunky and the voice acting isn't all shoddy. I completely understand that. But more than anything, you need to explain the actual plot. I mean, yeah, we already know the DBZ plot, but it would be nice if you actually treated these characters as though they have a purpose, as though there is reason for what they're doing, why they're doing it. And I just don't see that. At least I don't see that in Part 3 of Episode 30. And it isn't just Vegeta. Super Kami Guru was forced too. I mean, yeah, we all knew he was a dick. We all knew it was working up to the fact that his dickery was just accumulating in mass, but it seems kind of forced to just kill him off because the other Namekians found out that just the level of dick that he is, and just turn into a lynch mob and eat him. It just, like I said, it doesn't have that feel of DBZ Abridged. It just feels like someone strung together an attempt at a comedic fan fiction. And that's not the standard I hold Team 4-Star at, because I know they're better than that. I have seen their even their early works were superior to that. Even the first ever episode was funny and original and witty, and now all of a sudden it seems like they're forcing it. It seems like they're having trouble, going that extra mile. And I can only think that maybe sometimes they come to a wall with certain situations. They just don't know how to justify it, so then they just throw something together. And that is understandable, but at least admit to it. At least admit to it that, you're a good writer, but you have limitations. We all do. So, it would be nice if it would just try to reconcile that, as opposed to acting like that's the way it was planned all along. Like you really intended to alienate 50% of your viewer base by killing off Super Kami Guru in an anticlimactic way. I sincerely doubt that. Now, I kind of find it awkward that Mr. Popo is this ominous evil force, but then he's a big pothead and things like that. It's just forced humor. It's something I would expect from Family Guy. You don't want to end up like Family Guy. That's what I worry about here. I worry about that they have these original characters with original content, and it's just going to be so exaggerated, so extravagant, so forced, it's going to end up just like fucking Family Guy. And Family Guy is popular, but it doesn't deserve to be popular. It's not artistic in any manner. It's just toilet humor and, crunching together a bunch of random jokes and random punchlines because people have short fucking attention spans. And the only thing worse than people with short attention spans who like the puke that is Family Guy is the fucking fanboys that defend it. The fanboys that will always defend a series no matter how down the drain it's gotten. And it's just like the fucking gaming fanboys, it's just like the RPG fanboys, any sort of avenue that could be considered nerdy, you can guarantee that these assholes are going to defend to the grave. They care more about their Dungeons and Dragons and Family Guy and moderators than they do about themselves or their families or anybody else. And I would never see them make even remotely as many excuses for the shit that their companies that they love pull, for the shit that they call entertainment, than they would for their own goddamn siblings or parents. They would never let their own family get away with that shit. But somehow these big corporations that are making money doing what they're doing, it's okay. Now, mind you, like I said, Team 4-Star is not a profitable organization. I'm sure they make some kind of money along the way. Advertisements from revenue of their site. Maybe they get paid to go to conventions and things like that to make a guest appearance. I'm sure somewhere along the way they're making money. But it isn't anywhere near the quantity of these most corporations that are backed by fanboys, and I'll admit that. Nor am I saying that that's their main intention here. I am just pointing out these awful truths about the entire demographic, about how this whole thing works, how nerdiness works, how weeboos work, how fanboyism works, etc. And I'm just saying that this episode was very disappointing. The first two were pretty good. And then it just left with kind of a sigh. And this, a little bit of bitterness. Because it just seems so artificial, so stale. Another thing I didn't like about it was the way they've portrayed Bulma throughout the entire series. She doesn't seem like the super genius girl that is responsible for half of the shit involved in Capsule Corporation. I think that Team 4-Star forgets that Bulma is like this genius. She has like an IQ of 300 and, builds all these portable vehicles and things. She built the Dragon Radar. She's responsible for at least 75% of all the technology you see in Dragon Ball Z. But meanwhile, she comes off as just kind of this annoying bitch that's shallow and, hates Yamcha and you would not want to be around. That doesn't strike me as the way, it was intended for. And I know that they've gone off the deep end with a lot of characters and just done what they want to do with them. but since there are so few female characters in Dragon Ball Z as it is, you really don't want to do that. As it is, it would be difficult to justify Chi-Chi, because the way they make her out to be is pretty much how she is in the show, just with a comedic undertone. And so, what you have here is like 3 or 4 characters to work with that are female. None of them get particularly long airtime, and then you're going to make them punching bags. That doesn't seem like it's catering to your female audience. And there is a big female audience, because if there's one thing girls like, it's Japanese anime. It's like Twilight, but animated. So, yeah, when it comes to anime, you can expect more girl fanboys than in any other institution. You're not going to see many girls going to a Star Trek convention or playing Star Wars. You'll see a few, but nowhere near the amount of anime. When it comes to anime, I actually expect to see more women than men. Well, I use the term women loosely, but yes, they have vaginas. So, because of that, you know, you have this moral obligation to try to appeal to your audience, and I just don't see it. I don't see it because Chi-Chi is just this overbearing, overprotective mother that has a psychopathic streak. Bulma, as I said, is this shallow bitch that nobody wants to be around and does not exemplify the super genius family that the Briefs family is supposed to represent. Even Bulma's dad's wife, if she even has a name, which, by the way, I can understand her making her this, like, just one-dimensional background character, because she is. But it seems like there is just no hope for a girl that happens to like Dragon Ball Z. It's just, there's nowhere for them to relate to. There's nowhere for them to, you know, get some kind of closure in that this isn't just a man's world, that a female has just as much to say and to do in this thing as a man does, and I just don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to distance yourself from the entirety of the human race. I even say this about real shows that are actually on like Cartoon Network and things. A few years back, when Justice League Unlimited came out, a lot of my friends were pissed off because they decided to go with Jon Stewart instead of Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern. And I told them, well, what did you expect? You know how few black people there are in comic books as a whole? Yeah, sure, you got these background guys like the Black Lightning from Super Friends, if that was even canon. You know, you got Static Shock, you got things like that. But there's really not a whole lot to work with. So, what they did was they figured, well, Jon Stewart was a Green Lantern, and they made him a damn good Green Lantern in Justice League Unlimited. So, it worked out on both ends. He was a good, decent character, and he helped the black children watching Justice League Unlimited feel like they weren't all alone. Not feeling like they were somehow different from their friends that are predominantly white. Now, it would be nice if we did not see any color anywhere. You know, there was no distinguishing between color, race, ethnicity, religion, things like that. But until that day comes, we have to take into consideration these things when we are making a series or in any kind of entertainment, because it's going to come up and it's going to affect their psyche. And it would be cruel to do that to a child, to make them feel like just because they're black or just because in any way they're different, that suddenly they don't get to play the game. They don't get to be part of the bigger picture simply because of who they are, the way they were born. And, you know, that's why most of the time I agree with these decisions to introduce more females and more colored people into animated series and things like that. The only time I don't agree with it is when it's homosexuals, because, like I said, homosexuality is an invented ethnicity. It is something people invented along the way to describe themselves as a different group. But at no point was it ever actually a group. It's not a physical group. That's like saying blind people are a group. That's like saying that someone with any kind of physical difference is a group. While indeed that might be true to a little extent, you're not going to have every single blind, cripple, someone with a glass eye, someone with diabetes, and things like that in between on Justice League Unlimited. It would just be impractical and possibly even impossible. And all the same, sexuality is a fluid term, especially in the West, where, you know, just about every woman claims to be bisexual because they really just want attention. And, you know, how can you in one breath say that sexuality is subjective because everyone's a little homosexual, whatever bullshit they say, and then in another breath, you're an ethnicity. You were born this way. You're not fucking Lady Gaga. You were not born that way. You might have a predisposition toward one attraction or another, and if you have an attraction to the wrong gender, you probably have some hormonal imbalances or something, and that's unfortunate. But you know what? That does not make you a different group. That does not make you a minority. That just means you have a fucking hormonal imbalance. It would be the same goddamn thing if someone claiming they were schizophrenic was somehow like a race. Like to call someone schizophrenic, which they probably don't like to be called because most people don't exactly think schizophrenic is a nice word. Or maybe go a step further, just call them a schizoid. Let's say I call someone a schizoid, they're like, calling me a schizoid is like calling a black guy the N-word. No, it's not. The N-word is an actual group. You are not a group. You just have some kind of chemical imbalance in your brain, and while that is a bad thing, and I might feel bad for you, that does not make you this all-encompassing group like African Americans, blacks, whatever you want to call them. So, that's what I'm getting at here. So, what I'm essentially saying is DBZ as a whole is not going to be able to appeal to a female audience. That's just the gist of it. But I don't think Team 4 Star is trying hard enough even so. And that, in general, Part 3 of Episode 30 was very, very disappointing. But I have a feeling that this is just a fluke. I think that later on they will do a lot better. And that we do not have to expect this to be the norm. But I could be wrong. You know, I really like what Team 4 Star does, and maybe I'm just trying to be optimistic. But knowing what I know, it gets worse. So, I guess that's it.